The Bachelorette live finale recap we are here to discuss today, as well as Zach Shallcross potentially being announced as the next Bachelor. So much to get into, lots of Bachelor Nation tea. Welcome to our live. I hope everybody is doing well today. Please drop us a comment in the live chat. Let us know you're here, as we will be playing and putting up your comments all throughout the live to hear what you guys are saying, because there's just so much to talk about. I'm your host, Zachary Reality, with Allison Van Dam and Kayla Thompson. How are you guys doing? I mean, I got to do a wellness check. Last night was very emotional for all of us.
Last night was wild and yet not nearly as crazy as Jesse Palmer led us to believe. I mean, after his weird abandoned studio on the Warner Brothers lot telling us that we needed to brace ourselves for impact, I guess I was just like expecting something actually crazy, but maybe we'll hold out hope until next week.
Yes, I think next week is definitely the week for all of the drama and bracing ourselves. But last night was just a lot of tedious drama, a lot of tedious emotions. I felt like I was having the same conversation over and over again with the screen. So,
It
yeah, we'll
felt
have to
dragged
dive
out.
into it.
It felt dragged out last
Yes.
night. It felt like, we just want the ending, and I feel like we all like wish the show ended like 2 weeks ago, so we had time to like decompress before Paradise. But it's just going on and on and on. But we did get some resolution last night. We ended the show where Rachel is down to Tino, Gabby is down to Erich, and now the big question is, will they propose? Will they last? We're gonna break this all down and get all into it, so be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you are new here. Now, we need to kind of start off with this breaking news that Zach could potentially be the next Bachelor. So Variety has confirmed, they said, this is straight from their article that they wrote. Nothing is official until it's official, but sources tell Variety that ABC is all but set on Zach being the next Bachelor. Two individuals familiar with the Bachelor search have told Variety that Zach is the network's pick to lead season 27, which will air in early 23. And we are expecting the next Bachelor to be announced, or 100% it will be announced, unless something happens sooner at after the final rose next Tuesday. What are your thoughts on this being Zach? How do you guys feel about it? Kayla, why don't you start?
I mean, I'm kind of excited for it to be Zach. Last night, I was like, this I can see Zach being the Bachelor. I actually would want to see him be the Bachelor. I think he would do well. I mean, he's young, so there is enough, I think he's impressionable enough for the producers,
Okay.
to want to work with him. But I think he also does have a wisdom to him, and I think he's a deep thinker. And he thinks before he acts, from what I could see in this season. So I think he might be a better version of what Clayton was supposed to be on his season.
Oh,
And
okay,
yeah, I
shade.
do. I think it not too much shade, just a little bit. But no, I think Zach will be cute. I'm excited. I think he's the
What
best
about you,
pick out of
Allison?
the guys. Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense. Less so, hypothetically of what he's going to bring to the table on his own season. He pitched a perfect game last night, if I'm being honest. He pulled her aside, he expressed
Hmm.
her concerns. If I'm being honest, Rachel returning to Aven and Tino saying that he questioned her character wasn't really what happened. So I was a bit frustrated with that. He was clearly heartbroken. He was ready to get down on one knee. He just felt like he didn't maybe know her well enough and was really confused. And Rachel really cut that cord pretty quickly of being done with him and being ready to move on. So we watched him be heartbroken in the car. And sometimes that's when we find our best leads, is when we see them heartbroken, our hearts break for them. And then at the after,
Yeah.
the final rose live portion, he handled it like a champ. He didn't blame her. He didn't
Totally.
put anything back on her. And that was smart as a strategy. If he'd tried to win in that moment, I don't know if he would have been
Hmm.
allotted his own season. But because he really just showed her nothing but respect and love, despite what she put him through, it makes sense in my mind from an overall franchise standpoint.
No, I
Absolutely.
liked that last night. I noticed that. And even with Aven, like both of her after the final roses were so amicable, supportive. Like it was all love. I mean, but Rachel really fumbled the bag. Like she really let these two amazing guys go. I mean, Caitlin says I was rooting for a double Bachelor with Zach and Aven. Like these are both stellar kind, gentleman, and she ended up picking Tino. We'll talk about it. We're gonna get into it, but I'm here for Zach being the Bachelor. I mean, he is not my favorite, but I also like. So I think that's probably a good thing because if Aven was the Bachelor, I would have been jealous. But I feel like Zach is like a good like lead. Like he fits the mold. This is what the show wants. And I think that it makes sense. I'm fine with it. Kayla, why don't you read this from Kenzie?
Hey, Kenzie. So she says Clayton and Zach are both boring Bachelor. Would rather see Aven for Bachelor. Okay, yeah, I see what she said. I see what she's saying, but I think with Bachelor seasons, sometimes it's when you have a more kind of, I don't know, boring, I guess. Yeah, boring Bachelor. It does leave room for the cast of women to be the star of the
Stars.
show. I think that's kind of the point. So I think it works for Bachelor season and Bachelorette seasons. The Bachelorette does need to have way more presence and personality and kind of bring it.
Yeah.
So I think it'll
And
be
also,
okay. I don't think it makes or breaks it. Yeah.
he said he was like ready for love, and that's kind of what Allison was saying too. Like the thing is with Aven is that he literally said he wasn't going to be ready for an engagement, so I really don't think that set him up to be the lead. Also, we want to protect
Yeah.
Aven at all costs, and like Aven's too good for the Bachelor. Like Zach is about to go through a complete storm. Okay, like we saw what happened with
Absolutely.
Clayton, we saw what happened with Matt James, we saw what happened with
Hmm.
all of the Bachelors in recent years. When you're the Bachelor, it never works out well for you. Like maybe you find love, but it's not fun. It's not a fun opportunity. Like it's not as fun as it used to be. So
Mm.
let's have Zach have that so we can protect Aven and some of our other favorites. Are we all on the same page here?
I'm
Well,
with you,
you
Zach.
just have a personal interest in Aven being single and not being vied for by 30 women. So let's just make that clear to our audience as well.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that was clear, but there also is other reasons. Okay, like we need to protect. Let's talk about this breakup with Zach. I mean, we kind of discussed it. I mean, what happened after the final rose is that he pulled himself aside and sent himself home. Do you think it was a mutual breakup, Allison?
I think based on the lack of emotion and how quickly Rachel was willing to let him go, I have a feeling that he was going to be the one let go on that rose ceremony anyways. We watched her get emotional with Aven specifically when they were ending things. And so I think based on just how calm and collected she seemed in that moment, whether or not it was, her putting up a front or her trying to, be brave in that situation, who knows? But there was definitely a different reaction to Zach than there would have been if Aven or Tino had pulled her aside at that moment. So I have a feeling that he was probably on his way out anyways.
Yeah, Kayla, were you getting that
Yeah.
vibe? And I mean, what are your overall thoughts on that breakup?
1000% agree with Allison. I mean, the minute Rachel and Zach walked from the kind of rose ceremony spot, Rachel kind of like looked at the camera and like you could already see it wasn't about Zach. It was already kind of going into this Bachelorette compose myself mode. And then, yeah, I mean, Zach even said it when he was in the car. It's like, he could see in her eyes that she wasn't feeling what he was feeling, or it didn't mean to her what it meant to him. And I agree. I think even when her response to him wasn't anything, she was just like, well, yeah, I mean, I tried to get there and I couldn't. And one, I just wish she would have just said that to him in the fantasy suite, but no, she tried to kind of placate
Hmm.
it, and I don't even know. But yeah, I think even when she walked away, it was like, oh wow, that was so sad. Okay, well, all right, let's get to the rose ceremony, and it was
Yeah.
like, I don't know, she didn't really care. So I mean, yeah, it was
She
clear
was
she was
gonna
gonna
send him
break up with
home.
Zach. Absolutely.
She's like, I
So
knew it was kind of awkward the morning of. And I mean, I guess that's just kind of part of the show. And like, there was this social media thing that just happened where Nick Vile was kind of calling out Rachel in a way. He was just saying that, like, it's the lead's job to put on a good show. There needs to be rose ceremonies. Sometimes you can't break up with people as soon as you want to. And Rachel,
mhm.
felt a little bit offended by that. But I think what we saw is that she was kind of checked out of the relationship with Zach. She was going to send him home. So, Allison, what did you kind of think about her saying that she felt so disrespected
Mm, talk about it.
Disrespected by Zach.
by Zach? Yeah, or Nick.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Like I mentioned before, when she went back into the rose ceremony saying, when people come up to me and they question my character, that to me would have been something to say if, Zach had pulled her aside and pulled a Luke P from Hannah's season and basically, called her out for sleeping with other people and what kind of a woman would do that and all that other stuff. That to me would be questioning character. I think he was questioning, what happened? Why were our vibes so off? How did we go from being so sure and so certain in our relationship to me feeling like I got left in a fantasy suite with a complete stranger? So I'm not sure exactly why she chose that verbiage, because I also feel like it gave Tino and Aven the wrong impression of the conversation and of Zach. So I wish that might have been a little bit more clear. But I mean, I guess to each their own. Maybe she did feel like that's what he was doing toward her, but not from my eyes, is what I will say.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a very dramatic ending, and I think a lot of people have been giving Rachel flack for, the way she's handled things, but I also think she's given us a really good TV show because Gabby is only down to one guy, and I feel like that's just like fluff drama, and it just feels like there's so much drama with Rachel, which is what we want from a finale. Let's move on to Aven's family and friends hometown date with Rachel. So Rachel is so excited for Aven to meet her mom, her dad, and her two best friends. She's gushing about him and how excited that they are and that he could be ready to propose. And Aven seems to win the family over until he tells Rachel's two best friends that he is not sure about an engagement at the end of this. And when they delivered the message to Rachel, she was blindsided because she had no idea that Aven wasn't ready for an engagement at the end of this. Now, Aven and Rachel did talk outside, and Aven explained that he is 100% sure of her. He's so confident in her, but he's not 100% sure it's in both of their best interests to get engaged. This was a very heated conversation. I loved the two best friends with the little Kiki, especially Nathaniel. He's the pilot. He's like the gay best friend. And this just showed why everyone needs a gay best friend to get the tea, tell you the tea, and confront it. Because I don't know if Rachel's parents could have got this out of Aven. And this ultimately like led to their breakup. So how did you think this conversation went, Kayla? Because this was intense.
I mean, this conversation was very frustrating to watch for me because I felt like Rachel wasn't having she wasn't going into it wanting to resolve it. I think she
Yeah.
latched on to the problem, and I think she just wouldn't let it go. And we can speculate on why. My one speculation is that she found something.
Tino.
Oh, perfect, here's something. Yeah, here's something wrong that I can hold on to give me a reason to break up with him, and why it's not going to work. And she just wouldn't let it go, and everything Aven was saying was just, it didn't matter. She wasn't listening. She was just there, and it was all about how Rachel felt, and she was not putting herself in Aven's shoes. She wasn't listening again to Aven. She wasn't reasoning at all. She was just emoting, and again, I think she was latching on to the problem and just couldn't let it go. And I think, you know it was just frustrating. I felt they were going around in circles, and I didn't really like her being like, "Oh, you're yelling at me." I think, I don't know. I think that wasn't fair. He wasn't yelling. He was getting passionate from my perspective,
Yeah.
and I think, she made it a point to be like, "You're yelling at me," is almost, when people say that, they're accusing of potentially the person trying to emotionally manipulate them. But I think Rachel, I don't know. I'm trying to walk lightly, but sometimes I feel
We
like
want to
Rachel
be,
uses her
yeah.
tears to manipulate a little bit, and so I don't know. It was kind
Yeah.
of just, it was just a lot. It was a lot. But those
It's
are my
hard because we
just
we do we
thoughts.
want to support Rachel. We want to send her love, but I think we all agree that like, and we'll get to Allison in a second, but I just don't think Avon did anything wrong. Like he was fighting for the relationship. He
Absolutely.
was being realistic. He was talking about plans to move from, not to move, to visit each other after the show. And like unfortunately, like Rachel wanted a ring. So this comment by Stephanie, I think Avon is Rachel's number one, but I think she'll take Tino because she wants a proposal. Each only have one guy left. That kind of checks out. She said she wanted
Yeah.
a ring, and Avon was unable to give her what she wanted by the end of this. So that is kind of the reason that she ended up breaking up with him. He fought for it.
Yeah.
He literally said everything that anyone would ever want to hear. Like he was taking her feelings into consideration. He was saying, "I'm 100% confident. I'm sure of you." he was so
Absolutely.
caring. Like, I felt like we didn't get to
Yeah.
know him too much this season, but this breakup, we really got to know him. And I really thought he was so just like attentive and sweet and kind and like he really cared and he fought
He
for her.
really cared.
It looks
And he
like
did, and I
Allison
don't
might be
think that
having a
Rachel
little,
fought.
yeah, Allison might be
Yeah,
having a little bit of
Allison.
difficulty. So we'll see when she gets back in here. But why don't you tell
Okay.
us what happened at the breakup, and then what were your thoughts on after the final rose with Aven and Rachel?
Yeah, so Rachel, obviously they're having their quote last date, but Zach, I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. This was Rachel going to Avon's apartment or whatever hotel room to break up with him. I think that's
Uh huh.
pretty much why she went there. Um, I think she wanted to get straight to it. He tried to kind of have some pleasantries. Oh, let's have a drink. She's like, yeah, let's just talk.
Champagne.
Let's just get to it. And so, yeah, they start bringing up the same conversation, the same argument. And Aven apologizes for how he came off, for making her feel like he was yelling, and I like that he did that. But then Zach, he gives such a great point of why he feels like they potentially are not, they're both not ready for to get engaged to each other at this point. And he makes a point that, it would be great if we got engaged when we're fully in love with each other, which we're not yet. And it
Yeah.
just seemed like that
Yeah.
was not something that Rachel was even like aware of, or like, it's like, yeah, don't you want to be in love with the person before you get engaged? Like, why are we just skipping
Well,
over
we're gonna
that
talk up.
completely?
We're gonna gas up Aven all day long, me and Kayla. But Allison is back, and we need her to give her take.
Oh,
And Allison, I really would
perfect.
love if you touched on Aven saying that he was caught up in it, and maybe do you think there was some
Mm.
shadiness in him telling her friends, before he told Rachel? And I feel like you shouldn't hold back because I'm not gonna say anything bad about him. So you're gonna have to.
I mean, it's going to be me creating an opinion that isn't mine then, because I was team
Okay.
Aven in this
Okay.
situation too. And I was monitoring Twitter last night, and I found a lot of the points I agreed with, and a lot of them were pointing to the fact of it felt like Rachel was valuing an engagement and a ring over a really solid, stable relationship. And as you know, maybe it's not the most romantic or it's not the most glamorous thing for a guy to say, I want to go back out to the real world and I want to work on our relationship and I want to make sure that we are truly in love, because he said he really does only want to propose once. He wants this to be it. So he's trying to make sure that they are both really ready for it. And I think Rachel is just a super romantic and she wants that big moment, when in reality, she could probably have a life with Aven if they did exactly kind of what he wanted, which is go out and really establish themselves, get to know one another outside of the bubble. And the whole, I got caught up in it. I just, my heart goes out to Aven because it felt like his words were super scrutinized in this whole environment. He's sitting down with Rachel's friends. The message that he was conveying to Rachel's friends, I believe, was in a way heightened of when Rachel's friends then conveyed it to Rachel. It's like a bad game of telephone.
Ooh.
It's never going to be
Yeah.
exactly what it was to
Hmm.
begin with. And so I think when it was delivered to Rachel, it was already heightened. And then they're having this conversation outside. Like, it's just like he's trying to explain it to her. And I didn't necessarily feel like there was a ton of listening going on. So when he blurts something out
Yeah.
of, I just got caught up in it. That might mean, this whole experience. And while and it's just, I don't even know. And I was frustrated because they had their conversation when her family was there. She basically tells him, we're not leaving it on a bad note. It's fine. Walks him to the car. And then the next time they get together, she's telling him, I was so upset with how we ended things. And I can't believe that's how we ended things. Girl, you walked him to the car.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
true.
mean, you're saying a lot of accurate things, and I feel like even on after the final rose, when they had closure, like it almost felt like they were just like trying to support each other still and like be friends. I don't think they're gonna get back together or anything. It seems like she just needed maybe it's just like part of this show. I like these they have to close out storylines, and while Avon didn't do anything wrong, it seems like they needed to create like this mess when in reality, I wish that Rachel would just own that she wants Tino the most, and maybe she will. Um,
Exactly.
because if she wanted
Yeah.
him, like I was thinking, I'm like, if she really wanted Avon, she could have said, "Let's compromise. Why don't you give me a promise ring?"
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If she
No, I
wanted to pick
think
him.
I think I think yeah, if it really meant that much to her, she would have fought. And I think Allison made a great point of like Aven was really trying and Rachel kind of wasn't. And even when there was a point in their last conversation where Aven said, "Well, if you really want to get engaged, then," and she kind of stopped him and was like, "Well, I don't want to force you into it. So, it's just over basically." And I'm like, "So there's no winning. There's no reasoning again with it." And I'm just like, Rachel, I just feel like in it, I just wish she wasn't, it didn't come off like she's putting everything on them. She's putting everything on Zach. She's putting everything on Aven instead of just being like, I like Tino more than y'all. Like, and that's
Yeah, I mean, I
okay.
guess her only
But don't
like
make it
it
about the other
is.
guys. You
Yeah.
know.
And I guess her argument is
That's my only
that
thing.
to show both sides, I guess her argument is that maybe he, said that he was ready for an engagement or she just wasn't aware. So it probably sucks hearing it from her friends versus hearing that from him. So we have to give Rachel some sympathy on that. But it did seem like she was just focused on the ring, and because Aven said, "I was sure of you. I was sure of you. I'm just not sure we're gonna get engaged this moment, but I'm sure I still want to be with you forever and build a life." So, I mean, I think they
Yeah.
just weren't meant to be, and they were on two different pages, as Rachel was saying. Allison, why don't you take this comment by Valerie, and then we'll move on to Tino's date.
Yeah, so Valerie said, did anyone else notice Rachel smiling when leaving Avon's room and saying goodbye? I definitely noticed this. I texted Zach last night when we were watching the
Yeah.
episode. It definitely was a moment when she was leaving Avon's room. Now, I think people are kind of going back and forth of exactly why she was smiling. I think Rachel's commented herself of, we were trying to wrap it up on a nice note after a really emotional moment. Maybe it was like a sad smile. Other people, again, are pointing to the fact that maybe this was her way of being left with Tino. Maybe it was a smile of relief of, okay, great. I finally found a way to end this chapter so I can really just focus on the one guy I do want to propose, because it is probably a burden to feel like you're leading people on if you really know that Tino is the one for you. So was it a smile of sadness? Was it a smile of relief? Was it a smile of joy? Who really knows? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
See, I thought that, but then we saw her comment on Nick Vile's TikTok this morning, which kind of threw me for a little bit of a loop because I originally thought like, oh yeah, maybe that is a relief. But I mean, they were just on two different pages. Like it didn't even matter
Mm-hmm.
about the proposal. Like if they were, if she wanted to pick him, she would have picked him. He gave her his
Yeah.
all. Zach tried to give it his all. Rachel was the one that ended things with Aven. She broke up with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
Tino.
Right.
Um, he has gotten, now he's going to his date. Now, obviously, there's some drama because his family doesn't like Rachel, and Rachel tells Big Tony that. Kayla, why don't you kind of talk a little bit about this? What were your thoughts on Tino's date and him meeting Big Tony and everybody?
Yeah. Well, first off, when him and Rachel saw each other first before they walked in, it reminded me of why I did originally really like Rachel and Tino a lot together. They have such great
Me
chemistry, and
too.
there is a difference. There is a difference when she's with Tino, and it makes me be like, okay, like, this is good. I would like to see her with him and it work out. But the thing that surprised me was how nervous Tino was. I mean, he was kind of awkward. He was kind of like stumbling over his words a little bit. At one point, when he like stepped away and like had a little one-on-one with Rachel's mom, he like yawned a little in the middle of his sentence. And I think sometimes, like when you're that nervous, you can get like kind of tired and kind of like, I don't know. He was kind of stressed, but I think it was going well. I think he was saying the right things and he seemed genuine. The conversation with
For the
Rachel's
most
dad went
part,
really well. Yeah, for
I
the
just
most
didn't like
part
the
it was
sports
it was pretty
comment.
smooth.
He was
Well,
like,
when we
all
start
me and my
unpacking
dad
stuff with
do
his
is
dad, oh yeah, it
all
just
me and
doesn't
his
go well.
dad all me and my dad do is talk about sports. And like even when Big Tony kind of like sat him down, he was just a little bit like, well, I hope that's not, like, he just came across like sketchy. And I don't even know if it's all his fault because I really do believe that
Mm-hmm.
they give him the weirdest music. Like the background music for Tino is just so sketchy and mystery. And like I
Mm,
feel like this edit is making Tino look like a real car salesman, and I just like don't know how to feel about it because I loved him in the beginning and I loved him and
Mm.
Rachel together, and I was like shipping them so hard. You know, he brought her to the stairs where she was crying, and it's just like, what have they done to us to make us not like Tino so much? And like, how is this gonna play out next week, Allison?
I don't know, but I'm right there with you. And I think we've talked about this before. I've used the phrase before of like, Tino has this interesting line between confidence and cocky. And I appreciated his confidence during hometown visits because he was very much defending their relationship. And, it was great for him to be so, defensive of him and Rachel and what they had. But it can also just be like, oh, well, no, everything's fine. No, it's really not fine. Your family didn't really like her. Or even his comment after Fantasy Suites where he was like, my fantasy suite went as well as it possibly could have. Like I was like, I want to punch you in the face. Like it was just far too much, and I did not like
Yeah.
it. And I agree with
Yeah.
you with the
So
music.
true.
I'm like, there is a side to him where he can be this very dashing, emotionally intuitive guy, like we saw on the stairs. But I think there could be an edge of him of like he said, he only talks about sports with his dad. Brush it under the rug. Everything's fine. This is perfect. I am great.
Mm.
And that's going to cause some issues if you're building a life with someone too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think maybe the
Um,
edit could potentially be
Crazy.
leading to this ending with Tino where, next week, where, I think they're
It's
leaving
gonna be
us some room to
drama.
kind of feel not so secure with Tino a little bit and be like, maybe watch out and see. Because I do agree. I think even in this family date, it's like, oh, 100% my family, 1,000,000% they're gonna come around, and 100% they could just have a day on the beach with her, they'll fall in love, and it's just like, it's just he's selling stuff all the time, and like,
He's
Tino,
selling
get back on
himself.
the ground with us.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I didn't like when he said, "Oh, well, she doesn't like going surfing with me." But it was just the way he talks about things is honestly giving chauvinistic vibes. And like I don't know him personally and I
Mm,
love getting to know people from reality TV in real life. Like I always whenever I meet someone, I always go into it like I don't care what I saw about you on TV. Like I'm going to judge you for who you are. But
yeah.
like with him on the show, it's giving a lot of chauvinist, and his dad has even been writing a few things on Facebook, which have gotten some
Mhm.
people talking, saying that he cannot wait for the show to be over, that it's dragging. And I've also heard from some sources that this has actually been taking a toll on Tino. Like he's exhausted from the show, and he is just extremely ready for to say his piece and be done because his character has been
Mm,
maligned. We are talking about him when we don't even hear from him. He's not doing podcasts, he's not active on social media often. Like we don't even know what Tino's
yeah.
thinking, but we have so much to say about him without actually being able to hear his full side. So I cannot wait to see what happens next week after the final rose because I do feel like Tino deserves a chance to defend himself. He deserves a chance to speak. He deserves to tell us where he's at because this edit is just not giving us the opportunity to think positive things about him. So next week's going to be interesting. Do you have any final thoughts on this Tino thing, Allison? And then we should get into Erich.
I will be super interested to see what happens next week. We've all been dissecting the teasers. We see Rachel outside of the house, which clearly isn't in Mexico. So, are we going to be seeing something similar to, a Hannah Brown or a Becca Kufrin where something happens after the proposal and maybe by the time AFR happens, they're no longer together? That would be my prediction, but we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, and we'll
Yeah.
review some of the clips in just a few minutes. But we're gonna talk about Erich and Gabby really quickly. Which honestly, like, do you guys like? It was just I don't care. Like, they're so meant to be together, and like I feel like they're together, and like I feel like it's already been like rumored and spoiled that they're together, and like the
Hmm.
show is creating drama with them, and like that it was so apparent when they needed 15 extra minutes to like set up this storyline of like will he propose, is he not ready, and it just feels like Rachel's finale, like say what you want about her, is so much more compelling and interesting to me with these options and these great
Yeah.
guys, where it's like Gabby's final three, Jason and Johnny were so irrelevant they didn't even need a hot seat, just a janky Instagram caption with some sparkles. What did you think of Erich and Gabby's family date, Kayla?
I thought it went well. I mean, Eric has already met Grandpa John. So Grandpa John is, before Eric even
Mm-hmm.
gets there, he's like, "Oh, I love the guy. He's great." So I think that
Yeah.
was a good buffer for Eric to come in. And yeah, I mean, I think the one snag, and it wasn't even really a snag, but I think Gabby had a moment where, and it was great to see with her aunt, where she kind of is just expressing her fears, and talking
Uh-huh.
about, oh, I can't believe he's still here. I'm scared he's gonna walk away. Is my, the thing with my mom gonna kind of make me seem unlovable to him, which I think is, it's an unfortunate thing, with Gabby, that she struggles with, and kind of feeling like, she, I don't know, she kind of puts it on herself, even in, after the family date. We'll talk about it, but I think she's got like a lot of fear about this abandonment situation, and it's sad to see, but Erich is so solid in his feelings for her, so I think that's the great thing about Erich. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the problem with this situation is that two bachelorettes, there's not enough time. If you're going to keep talking about we needed Gabby's mom on this season. We saw it with Matt James. It was a big storyline for him. His dad showed up at the end. They cleared things up. I really feel like because there's two bachelorettes, there's not enough time. And I would have loved to see Gabby close things out with her mom because we saw how
Mm-hmm.
emotional it was for her. And she talked to her aunt about that. She has a great family and she is a great support system.
Yeah.
I would have loved to see some resolve with her mom because I was invested throughout the entire journey and she talked about it all season. So that's what happens when there's two bachelorettes. There's just not enough time. Allison, what were your biggest takeaways from Gabby and Erich? And I mean, do you think it was necessary to add extra 15 minutes to set this ending up for next week?
Well, first off, I don't think we needed Gabby and her mom. I thought that was kind of
Okay.
inappropriate when Matt James and his dad had this weird reunion on television. It's the same
Ooh.
way I
I
feel whenever
agree.
there's a
Yeah.
lead or a contestant with children. It just feels exploitative. It feels
Yeah.
unnecessary. And
That's
if Gabby and
fair.
her mom want to reconcile, that can happen off screen. I don't think it would be healthy for anyone, for all of America to be watching. But I
Yeah.
agree. I hope they're happy. I hope they're content. I think they're really good for each other. I think they bring out the best in each other. They kind of ended up together earlier than anyone would have expected, having watched former seasons. But I do think they're a really good match. I think they're a good pair. And hopefully, we'll see a beautiful proposal next week.
Yeah, I listen. I respect your opinion on that situation as well. I think there are two different sides to it. So I think we were invested in her journey, and we want to see what happens. But it also is really deep, and sometimes things are too deep for reality TV. Now, next week, Gabby and Erich, I guess the biggest question is, are they going to get engaged? Are they going to propose? Are they going to break up? Same thing with Rachel and Tino. We have 5 clips to go through. We're going to be giving our fast reactions and take a few of you more of your questions before we go. So let's take a look at this first clip. Gabby and Rachel being ready for proposals. Let's see it. Let's
Tino
see.
truly is the man of my dreams. This is the day I've been waiting for my whole life. I do love Erich with all my heart, so I do want a proposal from him.
Okay, Kayla, are they getting engaged? Yes or no? In this moment.
Yeah, I think they're both getting engaged. I do. Um,
Okay.
I don't know. It's funny when I hear Gabby. Well, let me not taint it. I have my own thoughts about Gabby and Erich. I do think they'll get engaged though. But Allison, what do you
Okay.
think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2 proposals, 2 engagements. I think only Gabby and Erich will be together for AFR.
Hmm.
Okay, let's take a look at this next clip. Are Tino and Erich really ready?
Like, I'm so sick of this. I just really need to tell you something that's been weighing on me.
There's no way this works out.
Nobody can tell me I'm
So these fights are so intense, and these fights are making us think that they're not going to get engaged. Because why does it have to be so dramatic when there's one guy left? But the thing that makes me think they're gonna get engaged is that they are dressed up. Like we saw both of them in that final rose ceremony situation. If they were gonna break up, like they wouldn't be breaking up. You know what I'm saying? They would either break up after or before, and if it happened before, then we wouldn't see them in that final rose ceremony situation.
Right.
Capiche?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I see a little issue actually here. And just in your point, I'm agreeing with you and piggybacking up. Your point is like they give us a little clip of Rachel crying just then, but that was clearly from her breakup with Aven to me. So they're just reusing some stuff here
Oh.
to try to like make things
They
work.
love
and
to
So
do
even
that's
that.
absolutely from
Gabby
yeah.
saying no one can say I'm crazy or whatever. That's the outfit we left this past episode on. All of these are clips
Yeah.
we've seen of Gabby too. So who's to say we don't start out next week and Erich is like, sorry, my words came out wrong. She's like, we're back together.
Okay.
Like, could
Right.
be just
No
done.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, the only thing that's interesting about this trailer is that there seems to be some footage of Tino and Rachel post show. So let's take a look at this clip and see if we can identify what's going on.
Crazy. He said, I want to leave here and I want to date you.
She's throwing me under the bus saying all this is lies. She just called it a
All I know is rejection.
So they're still showing the same Gabby and Erich fight that happens, you know, on their date before the potential engagement. This Tino and Rachel fight clearly happens after. What do we think is in this notebook, Allison? Because it seems like he looks so distraught to
Do we
me.
know? Do we know if it happens after? For sure?
I mean, we don't, but I think if you watch the rest of this trailer, it's just kind of obvious that this is in Los Angeles, like not in Mexico.
Yeah. His hair
Okay.
is longer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
It
I was
seems
just
like
wondering,
it's
like,
been some
maybe
time.
that was his final, like, proposal speech. You know, they always give that speech of why they want to
Wearing that,
propose, what they've
though?
experienced throughout their journey. No, but I'm wondering if this is
Yeah,
either
yeah.
before he proposes or if it is truly afterward. Maybe he's saying, like, you know, she's telling me all of this is lies, and maybe he's referencing like that's where he wrote his proposal. He still has it. And Terry right now is saying, I think Tino read
okay.
Rachel's diary. Oh my God, that would be
Ooh.
dramatic. I hope
Goodness
so, Terry.
gracious.
Grab that popcorn and wine, Terry.
Read the
No, I
diary.
think that's
Okay,
a
we
good
need to
point.
watch the next.
Yeah.
We need to watch the next clip before we can even share because this house with this random pool, like it's definitely in Los
Yeah.
Angeles. Let's take another look.
Okay.
It's scary as hell. You're lying straight to my face. Look me in the eyes and lie to me again.
You did say that. You said that.
Wow.
What?
Okay, wait. Let's just watch one more and give our thoughts because let's just watch another one. Keep going, George. Keep going.
I want to leave here engaged. If he doesn't propose, I'll be devastated. I want an answer for why
Right
you
there.
did what you did.
What you did. So
Okay.
she's yelling at
okay.
him. This
Now I
has been
see the
teased.
context. Yep. I see the outfits. I see the house
bushes.
now. I understand. We are no longer in Mexico. And
Yeah.
she puts her hands over her face. I don't see a ring.
Ooh,
Right.
good
She's
point.
probably not wearing
Good
it.
point out.
You
This
know,
is-
she's probably. Yeah.
It's clearly a couple months after because their faces look different. Their hair looks different. Like
Yeah.
And he's grown a
look at
little
Tino.
mustache.
Yeah, his hair is
looks
grown. Her
exhausted.
makeup is different. He looks exhausted. I kind of have a little theory actually now. I think from this conversation on the couch,
Okay, theory.
when he said, "Oh, you see me?" When he was like, "Is that not what you said?" or whatever. I think, and then he's holding the notebook, right? What if he wrote kind of in his journal or something, like, "Oh, Rachel told me that I'm the one," in like week 5 or something. I don't know. What if it's something like that? And she's just like, and then
Yeah,
I
maybe.
don't
I
know.
feel like a lot of people keep journals and diaries during their time in the show just because everything happens so fast and it's hard to remember. So definitely. And then he could be
Yeah.
referencing that. And maybe in other points, he's like, we're going to end up together. We're soulmates. And he's like, you're saying that this is all lies.
Right.
Oh, so
Yeah.
but he's not mad at her, right? Like it sounds like she's the one that's mad at him.
Exactly. But I don't know what I
Right?
don't know
I feel
how
like
to
they're
piece that
both
together
frustrated.
though with they're both frustrated. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because even at, the clip we just saw of them in the backyard, she's like, "You need to explain why you did what you did." And that doesn't really line up with the journal thing. I don't know. And they keep saying it's controversial. I'm like, "Okay, I think we're just going to have to see it, I guess, but I don't know."
Tino
What did he
has
do?
an affair.
Well, that's
Tino
what I'm saying.
has 5
There
kids.
is some rumors. There's rumors on the internet that
Tino-
maybe he rekindled things
Tino
with an
cheats.
ex.
And then
It's possible.
she's like, lie to him. And he's like, but I love you. And we're still soulmates. And she's like, lie to me one more time. And he whips out his journal. And it's like, Brussels, I am in love.
Oh. Allison, write the script.
Or I think, yeah, I think one thing that is weighing on a lot of people as well is, could it be the family? You know, that's been a big storyline all season. Did his family never come around? I mean, we know that his dad is still saying things on Facebook last night. So I think that she could have felt like misled, that she wasn't as accepted into his family as he promised her. So that could be a potential reason why they are fighting and breaking up. Let's watch one more clip, and then I want your final thoughts on maybe they can rekindle things. Let's take a look. Here's
I
Gabby.
think he might
Love that dress.
walk away. I have never felt this blindsided and betrayed. I'm done.
This is why I love Rachel, because she's so dramatic. Like, she really is such good, compelling television, and I'm so fascinated to see what happens with her. So let's have your final thoughts. I mean, what's going to happen? I think Gabby and Erich, I think, are together. We kind of saw that their only fight in this trailer was that night before. And then I guess Rachel and Tino are going to break up post-show, which was kind of apparent on her face last night and after the final rose. Like, she was pissed. She looked pissed. She was not happy to be there. Gabby was smiling. She had her hair all curled. She's doing Dancing with the Stars rehearsals. Like, this makes me so sad that Rachel put her whole heart into this journey and that it might not work out for her.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to take this comment because it kind of goes along with what I was thinking too. Ever since, Zach, you were talking about the family dynamic of it all. This comment says, Tino's daddy doesn't approve, so he backs out. I mean, that could be, lie to me one more time. He has said he's been operating on these big grand statements of 100%. They won't be mad at you. They won't be mad at me. They'll come around. They'll see how much I care about you. They don't understand me in relationships. We don't talk about this kind of stuff. And maybe part of what he had written in that diary is, they will come around. I'm so in love with her. I will do everything I can. And maybe the pressures were just too much. But who knows?
But
I mean, I keep
if your
saying
dad
that
doesn't like the guy, do you care?
I mean, it makes things difficult for sure. If you're close to your family, do you want to lose your entire family based on who you're with?
Yeah.
But that's crazy that his family would, like, not even try and support Rachel. Like, it's crazy that if they love their son, that they can't, like, have his back.
Who knows?
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. I think it's anyone's wild guess. Crystal is saying, maybe Tino is kind of saying, let's take a break, and maybe he met someone else. That would be wild. But I don't know. I think maybe, I don't know about the family thing. I think Tino's definitely been operating like, I mean, him and his dad don't seem very close, to be honest. So I don't know if he'd actually really care. But yeah, I mean, I do think I agree with Zach. I think that they both get engaged at this final ceremony, but I think Tino and Rachel break up. I think that maybe Gabby and Erich are still together. I think I'm in the minority that Erich and Gabby aren't like the most iconic, oh my God, they're so meant to be, they're going to be together forever. I think they're great. I think they're really cute, but I don't know. They could maybe not be together either, but that's me. But I think Gabby definitely looks happier, and she's Dancing with the Stars. She's got a new thing
smiling.
going. So she's like, I'm past this. So Rachel's clearly still dealing with the residue of this season, and that it's tough to see her clearly not happy. So yes,
and even if Gabby and Erich are together,
oh no,
it doesn't mean that they're gonna like get married or last forever. So I don't know. We'll have to kind of see what the vibes are next week when they sit down with Jesse Palmer and give us like the update on the last few months. But we're definitely gonna get some drama with Rachel, and it's just sad. Like, she just has gone through so much, and she has to end up alone. What do you want to see next for Rachel, Allison? I personally think that she should step away from TV, at least for now.
I think she should definitely take some time. I mean, it's such an overwhelming experience being the lead. I think she can definitely take time. Maybe she'll meet someone, out of the franchise, out in the wild. But also, I'm not giving up hope completely. She is young. She's only 26. Maybe she takes a year, 2, 3 to decompress. But maybe then she pulls a Becca Kufrin, goes on the beach, finds someone completely unexpected, and falls madly in love and gets engaged that way. Who knows?
I'd be down for that.
I would not be
absolutely
opposed
be down
for that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I
Yeah,
would
I
say,
think
like, do you
Rachel
think
has
she'll get
room to
back
grow.
together? Do you think she can get back together with Zach or Aven? But I think it was kind of apparent after the final rose that, she's kind of separated things with
Yeah.
both of them. Because we've seen this before where Ari, he broke up with Becca. There was this huge drama, and then he got back with Lauren. Hannah Brown
Yeah.
even, was kind of talking to Tyler Cameron and even Pilot Pete after she split with her pick, Jed. So it does seem like
Yeah.
sometimes that happens, but based on after the final rose, Rachel, girl, we were rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. And it just, it might have
Didn't
not
work
worked out. It just doesn't seem like it worked out. Final thoughts, Kayla?
Yeah, I mean, I think Rachel, just to cap it off on a good note, I think, Rachel is not the villain that we should make her out to be. I think she just has a lot of room to grow, and I think maybe watching this season back, she'll really just, see a lot of things to grow in and to work on, and also just maybe be able to unpack this whole season. And I think even though next week might be tough to go through with the live show and having to talk to Tino if they're not together,
Oof.
I think that
It's gonna be good
it's
TV.
gonna be tough. But I think it's I think this is a new journey that both of these girls are going to be embarking on after this, and so I'm excited to see what happens after this crazy season.
We're just happy it's over. Guys, it started in July. It is September. And not even
It's
that.
been
We
a
had
long
4 months
year.
building up to this season because we had that 4-month
Yeah.
break from Clayton's season. So we were talking about them. I literally remember being like, 50 days until Gabby and Rachel's season, 49 days. And like literally it came and it was dragged out. It was, and now we're going right into Paradise. So we're just so happy for a
gosh.
resolution. Allison, final words, final thoughts for next week. Are you ready to wrap up this season?
I'm ready to wrap up this panel. I'm ready to wrap up this season. I'm ready to just be done. You said it best. I mean, thank God we had this few-month break before this season started. But this season, for as much as we harped about, oh, we don't have enough time, there's 2 bachelorettes, we have enough time. Let's be done. We could have been done a week or 2 ago. Wrap it up and give me the drama that I want, and then let's be done.
Period.
Totally.
Popcorn. We'll be back next week. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Let us know your predictions. All love to Rachel, Tino, Gabby and Erich. We're hoping to get 2 happy couples. We'll see what happens. Like this video, subscribe before you go. Follow our socials. I'm Zachary Reality with
Allison Van Dam.
And Kayla Thompson. Thank you guys so much for watching and coming on live with us. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.